Hey guys, and welcome back to your inside look at college football. Week 8 coming up. I know we had a crazy week this past week in college football. Major upset in Athens, Georgia. Took one of my preseason playoff picks out. Georgia was upset by the South Carolina Gamecocks, and not that impressive of fashion. Really, the kickers beating themselves out here. Tanner?
I mean, yeah, they looked sloppy out there, and we kind of talked about it last week. Georgia, in our eyes, was seen as one of the more overrated teams in the country. They just seem to always lose these big games. I will give Kirby Smart's biggest win of his career was the playoff win they experienced against OU, and then they lost to Alabama in the national championship. They lost to Texas in the Sugar Bowl. It seems like this entire time with Jake Fromm's career, he's had a hard time beating Alabama. They lost to LSU last year. They just they're the kings that shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I mean, it happens too. And, they could easily be on top of the SEC East right now with Missouri, but instead they're second place.
With Florida.
And that's not where you want to be in the SEC East because, and a loss like this is terrible if you're looking at getting the football playoff.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. So last year, the College Football Playoff Committee was really hard on Ohio State for that terrible loss they took against Purdue. And you know what? I expect the playoff committee to handle it the same way as Georgia. I mean, in my eyes, Georgia should be pretty much dismissed from the conversation because, Ohio State, they got punished by losing to Purdue, and that was on the road. Georgia was at home.
Yeah, that's a home loss to an
unranked South Carolina team. And unless South Carolina can beat Florida, that loss is going to look terrible because South Carolina will be lucky to make it to a bowl game right now.
Yeah, and credit to South Carolina. Obviously, they played a hell of a football game to have taken Georgia down, especially at home in Athens. But, it's just that style that they've been playing recently. They've been playing so under center, and we talk about that with the Big Ten all the time and their style of offense versus other styles of offense. And I just feel like the same can be said for Georgia. You have offensive weapons that are fast and have a lot of talent and capability.
Fast, just everything you would want.
And they can do anything they want to do, but they keep running it under center, and I have no idea why.
And they keep their playmakers from their full potential when you just run a style of offense like that. If you can get the ball out in space, spread the ball out, give the balls to your playmakers and make them make plays in space and run, a more high-tempo kind of offense. Look, LSU did it. They changed their offense up completely, and look how much success they're doing.
Yeah.
They literally got the passing coordinator from the New Orleans Saints or running a mini air raid, and they will run the football too. But, the way they pass the ball is a lot different than what most teams in the SEC are used to seeing. And, that's the point I'm trying to make. Jordan.
Absolutely. I think that's 100% true. And we talk about that a lot when we watch football games is styles of offenses versus, who could beat whom and what hypothetical situation. And, we had one of those hypothetical situations this past week. I know you were at the game, possible college playoff implications.
Oh, it was a massive college football implication game. And before we talk about that, I just want to wrap up the Georgia segment here. Georgia's final games of the season they got Kentucky at home, Florida at home, Missouri at home, at Auburn, A&M at home, and at Georgia Tech. Florida, Missouri, and Auburn are ranked, so after this Kentucky game, it appears they'll have 3 ranked games in a row, so I'm eager to see if that'll be enough to even get back within the top 6, and then they still would have to win the SEC championship game versus LSU or Alabama. So,
yeah,
still a lot on the table for Georgia, but we'll find out if they want to bounce back or not in 2 weeks when they play Florida.
Just depends on if the committee wants to go by precedent.
So, anyways, yes, you're 100% right. Though I was at this. It was a massive game, and I felt like Texas didn't even play their best football. I felt like they played average the whole time, and they still only lost by a touchdown. And it sucks because to be a playoff contender, you have to you have to win these big games on your schedule, and you have to get over that hump. But, there's no moral victories anymore at this state where we're at in the program.
Mm-hmm.
But, they competed with LSU, who is now number 2 in the country, lost by a touchdown, and they competed the entire time against Oklahoma, who was number 5 in the country, and they lost by a touchdown as well to OU. So
obviously, can't wait to talk about LSU going up to number 2 later on in the podcast. But we knew this game was going to be a toss-up. Red River always is, and man, it's just injuries. It looks like
they
for
had a
Texas
lot of injuries on the back end of the defense, and
not that really stopped them because they were able to generate turnovers, and had y'all got some points off turnovers, we might have been looking at something different. But
that was the difference in the game, in my opinion. We did not have any turnovers. I say we. Texas didn't have any turnovers in that game. OU had 2 turnovers in that game, and Texas produced 0 points off those 2 turnovers and a 7-point loss. So, that to me was the difference in that game.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that. If there's any one way to make it easy on yourself to win a football game, it's points off turnovers, and Texas just couldn't get it done. And credit to the Oklahoma Sooners coming to Dallas, Texas, winning a tough game, putting themselves ahead in the rankings.
I want to make a quick point here. Now, I'm not saying that Texas is still alive for the playoffs by any stretch, but it would be interesting to see if Texas wins out and goes 10-2, and they run it back with OU like last year in the Big 12 championship game, and if they are able to win that game and redeem one of those 2 losses they have against a team that beat them, where are they going to go? Because Texas has had a really hard schedule up to this point. They still have tough games remaining on that schedule. So if Texas can climb back up, let's say to the top 8 and play, if OU's undefeated come the Big 12 championship game, they'll be in the top 4 easily.
But will the committee look at a 2-loss team in a way that
a 2-loss team has never gotten in before? I'm just throwing out a hypothetical here.
It'd be interesting to see what they decide to do with them, but it's hard for me to imagine that a 2-loss team gets in yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely makes it a lot tougher to get into that sweet playoff.
Yeah, and it sucks because this year or last year they started off terrible. They lost to Maryland, and that's just a terrible loss. And people want to say there are such things as good losses, and I guess if there is such thing as a good loss, you lose to 2 top 5 teams in the country by 7 points in both games.
Hard to argue with that.
It could have gone either way in both of those games, and I hope we do get the opportunity to run it back against Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. That'd be nice to see.
Well, the good thing is that they're definitely going to play again. Both teams will definitely play. Texas will play LSU and OU next season. So worst case scenario, you'll get a look next year, and Jalen Hurts will be out of Oklahoma by then, and
Burrows will be out of LSU.
Burrows will be out of LSU.
And so that's another interesting point too. I wonder now if LSU is going to become a huge transfer portal spot for these quarterbacks that are looking to transfer, like OU has become, because of the kind of offense they run. It's no coincidence that Baker ended up in Norman with Lincoln. It's no coincidence that Kyler ended up in Norman with Lincoln, and I damn sure can tell you it wasn't a coincidence that Jalen ended up with Lincoln and Norman, 3 years in a row. And now that LSU's hired Joe Brady from the New Orleans Saints, I'm eager to see if LSU becomes a transfer portal hotspot for these quarterbacks that are looking to transfer.
I'm sure it will, but only time will tell there. Definitely excited to see what will happen with that, though. The new offense is always exciting, and LSU got a good chance to display that new offense this weekend, climbing all the way up to number 2 in the rankings behind Alabama. Very impressive win from them. Yeah,
that's looking like it's going to be a blockbuster November 6th or 7th whenever they play.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be – I said it last week. It just feels like this LSU team is different from LSU teams in the past. This offense is crazy good. They have crazy good athletes all over the field. And Joe Burrow, the Heisman Trophy ceremony were to happen today, that man would probably raise it up.
Yeah, I agree with that statement for sure. And, it's exciting to think about what they might be able to do against a team like Alabama, because everyone would love to see Alabama take an L. And Alabama's schedule is not, by any stretch of the imagination, difficult.
No.
They schedule a ton of cupcake games throughout their season. So if they take a loss, they should be worried about the College Football Playoff Committee looking at their schedule.
They have played, unless you count the A&M Aggies, they have played no ranked teams, and they won't play another ranked team up until LSU, and then they'll have the Iron Bowl, obviously, if Auburn is still ranked at that time.
Yeah.
So,
well, and the Iron Bowl, that's another one of those rivalries that's really a toss-up, which is exciting. But I mean, a lot of big football still for Alabama to play.
If you're LSU, you're feeling good about yourselves. You have a win against Texas. You have a win against Florida. Here in a couple of weeks, you have Auburn, and then you have a bye, and then you got 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. And I mean, shoot, you have an opportunity to be 3-0 against ranked teams up into the Alabama game. And if you can beat Alabama, that would send a statement really to the whole country, because you've been like Alabama's little brother, I feel like, these last few years.
100%. 100%.
You get past them, you get to play in the SEC championship game, you get an opportunity to play for a bit, and it's not going to be Alabama coming out of the SEC West.
And that's well within reach for LSU at this point, I feel like. Last year I was really high on LSU, and it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. But this year with the new offense, it's been really exciting football to watch. I'm super excited for the Tigers.
So, with all that being said, unfortunately, Week 8 kind of is a slow week as far as big games go. But really quick, before the show ends, we kind of just want to talk about the Penn State-Michigan game and what implications could follow for both teams. Penn State is a team that right now is undefeated, and they're trying to keep up with Ohio State. Michigan still also controls their own destiny, even though they have one loss, because if they win out, they'll come out of that division and play. It's looking like Wisconsin. But, it's a whiteout game in Happy Valley, and I don't know if I think Michigan's going to get their second loss of the season.
Man, I look at a lot of teams that are ranked behind Michigan in the top 25, and I was literally doing this on the couch this morning. But, I mean, I don't know if they could beat a lot of the teams that they're ranked ahead of. I'm not convinced that this Michigan team is that good at all. I think Penn State easily could steal one, especially in a whiteout at Happy Valley. Big things tend to happen at those games.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think James Franklin wants to prove himself that he can coach in big games, and he's not a choke artist. And even though Michigan isn't the team in the Big Ten you want to beat, it's a start. Everybody knows the team you want to beat in the Big Ten's in Columbus. Mm-hmm. And, that's shaping up to be another blockbuster, too, if both Penn State and Ohio State can survive and be undefeated when they play each other. And, it'll look like the winner of that game will represent that side of the Big Ten in the Big Ten championship game. So there is still a lot of crazy stuff that could happen. And there's still, more than or a little less than half the season to go. Or, we're right about that halfway point. And we're approaching November. And November is really when the chaos happens.
Crunch time. That's crunch time.
And it's spooky season, so I'm interested to see
spooky season.
I'm interested to see where it goes, and if you're a Longhorn fan, there's still a lot to play for. That being a Big 12 championship. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for giving us a listen, and tune in next week for Week 9 college football. It's going to be a good one.